The chamber floated in the darkness of space, a massive ring of metal and light that orbited the blue giant star of Velm Prime. Inside, representatives from 300 species gathered in the circular council hall. The air hummed with translation devices as thousands of voices spoke in hundreds of languages. At the center of it all stood Taimin, the human ambassador from Earth. He was a small figure compared to most of the aliens around him. The insectoid delegates towered over him with their chitinous shells. The gas cloud beings floated in their containment suits. The reptilian counselors watched him with cold eyes. Taimin wore a simple black suit, his face calm despite the hostile atmosphere. In his hand he held a small device containing Earth's final response to the Council's demands. High Chancellor Vextar sat on the elevated throne at the head of the chamber. He was a massive creature, almost 3 meters tall with 4 arms and skin that shimmered like oil on water. His species had ruled the Council for 2,000 years. They had brought order to the galaxy, or so they claimed. Now they expected every new species to bow before them. Taimin activated the device. His voice echoed through the chamber, translated into every language simultaneously. The people of Earth have considered your offer. We decline. We will not join the Galaxy Council as a subordinate member. We will not surrender our sovereignty. We will not bow to alien rule. The chamber erupted in noise. Councilors shouted in anger. Some laughed. Others simply stared at the human with what might have been pity. Vextar raised one of his 4 hands. Silence fell immediately. You speak for a species that discovered faster than light travel only 20 years ago. Your world has 300 warships. The Council commands millions. You have 1 planet. We have 10,000 worlds. And yet you refuse us? Taimin met the Chancellor's gaze without flinching. We refuse you. Foolish, Vextar said. His voice was calm, but there was something cold beneath it. Every species that has refused the Council has regretted it. Some no longer exist to regret anything at all. Then we will be the first species to refuse and survive, Taimin replied. The chamber erupted again. This time the laughter was louder. A counselor from the reptilian delegation stood up. His name was Cross, and his species had conquered 40 star systems before joining the Council. Humans are arrogant insects. They think their primitive weapons make them strong. They forget that 1 million species came before them. All of them learned to kneel. Another counselor spoke up, a crystalline being whose voice sounded like breaking glass. Perhaps they need a demonstration. A small fleet. Destroy a few cities. Then they will understand. Vextar nodded slowly. The Council has been patient with Earth. We offered friendship. We offered protection. We offered membership. They have rejected all of it. Now they must face the consequences of their pride. Taimin knew what was coming. He had known since the moment Earth sent its refusal. He had argued against it, told them the Council would retaliate, warned them that humanity might not survive. But Earth's leaders had been unanimous. They would rather die free than live as servants. I propose a punitive action, Vextar continued. Let us send a fleet to Earth not to negotiate, not to threaten, to conquer. We will show the galaxy what happens when a primitive species forgets its place. The vote was immediate. 300 species, 300 votes. Not a single voice spoke against it. Not a single counselor defended humanity. The decision was unanimous. Vextar turned his attention back to Taimin. Ambassador, you have 72 hours to leave Council space. After that, any human ship will be destroyed on sight. In 3 months, a Council fleet will arrive at your world. I suggest you use that time to prepare your people for surrender. If you cooperate, we may show mercy. If you resist, we will turn Earth into an example that will be remembered for 10,000 years. Taimin bowed slightly, a gesture of respect he did not feel. I will deliver your message, Chancellor. But I have a message of my own. You are making a mistake. Humanity may be young, but we are not weak. We have fought wars among ourselves for thousands of years. We know how to kill, and we know how to survive. Cross laughed, a harsh hissing sound. Your species fights with chemical explosives and metal projectiles. We have weapons that can crack planets. Your threats are meaningless. They are not threats, Taimin said quietly. They are warnings. You should listen to them. He turned and walked toward the exit. No one tried to stop him. As he left the chamber, he heard the counselors already discussing the size of the fleet. Some wanted to send 1,000 ships. Others argued for 5,000. Vextar settled it by declaring they would send nearly 10,000 warships, the largest armada ever assembled for the conquest of a single world. Taemin made his way to his small ship docked at the station. It was a human vessel, sleek and gray, built for speed rather than combat. As he prepared for departure, his communication console lit up with an incoming message. It was from Earth, from Admiral Hyunwoo, the commander of Earth's defense fleet. "Ambassador, what is the Council's decision?" The Admiral's voice was steady, but Taemin could hear the tension beneath it. "They are coming," Taemin replied. 9,700 ships. Maybe more. They will arrive in 3 months. There was a long pause. Then Hyunwoo spoke again. "Then we have 3 months to prepare. Thank you, Ambassador. Come home. Your people need you." Taemin engaged his ship's engines and left the Council station behind. As he jumped to faster-than-light speed, he looked back one last time at the glowing ring orbiting Velm Prime. Somewhere in that station, the Council was celebrating. They thought they had already won. But Taemin remembered something his grandfather had told him, a quote from an ancient Earth general. The enemy gets a vote. The Council had voted to invade Earth. Now Earth would vote on whether they would be conquered, and Taemin knew what humanity's answer would be. The journey back to Earth took 2 weeks. Taemin spent every moment preparing reports, analyzing the Council's military capabilities, and sending every scrap of intelligence he had gathered back to Earth. When he finally arrived in orbit above his homeworld, he saw that preparations had already begun. Ships were being pulled from the outer colonies. Orbital defenses were being reinforced. The asteroid belt was being turned into a minefield. Humanity had 3 months to prepare for the largest invasion in galactic history. It would have to be enough. Admiral Hyunwoo stood in the command center deep beneath Geneva, Switzerland. The room was filled with screens showing every corner of Earth's solar system. Red icons marked human defensive positions. Blue icons showed civilian evacuations in progress. And somewhere beyond the edge of the display, 9,700 enemy warships were preparing to jump toward Earth. The Admiral was a tall man with gray hair and sharp eyes. He had fought in the Unity Wars 30 years ago, when Earth's nations finally stopped fighting each other and formed a single government. He had commanded ships during the colony rebellions, when Mars tried to declare independence. He had seen war, but nothing like this. "Sir, Captain Jiwon is on the line from Jupiter," a young officer reported. Hyunwoo pressed a button. The face of a woman appeared on his screen. She was young for a captain, only 32, with short black hair and a scar across her left cheek from a mining accident in her youth. She had earned her command through skill, not politics, and her crew loved her for it. "Captain, how long until your fleet reaches Earth?" Hyunwoo asked. 2 weeks at maximum burn, Admiral. We are bringing every ship from the outer system, 43 vessels total. Most are patrol frigates and mining support craft. Nothing that can stand up to a Council warship in direct combat. I know, but we need every ship we have. Begin your journey immediately. Jiwon nodded. Understood, sir. We will be there. The screen went dark. Hyunwoo turned to face the dozen people gathered around the conference table. These were Earth's military leaders, scientists, and politicians. The people who would decide how humanity would face extinction. Defense Minister Young-ja spoke first. She was an older woman, a former fighter pilot who had lost her left arm in combat decades ago. Now she wore a mechanical replacement that moved as naturally as flesh. Admiral, we need to be realistic. We have 340 warships. They have 9,700. Even if every one of our ships destroys 10 of theirs, we still lose. Then we make sure each ship destroys more than 10, Hyunwoo replied. Colonel Sang-hoon leaned forward. He was the head of Earth's Weapons Research Division, a man who had spent his entire life designing ways to kill more efficiently. I have been working on something. We call it asymmetric warfare. The Council expects a traditional battle, ship against ship, fleet against fleet. We do not give them that. Explain, Hyunwoo said. Sang-hoon activated a holographic display. It showed the solar system with various marked positions. The Council will enter our system here at the edge of the Kuiper Belt. They will expect us to meet them in open space. Instead, we hide. We use the asteroid belt, the moons, the planets themselves. We ambush them. Hit and run. Never give them a clear target. Lieutenant Boris stood up. She was the youngest person in the room. Only 26, but she had the highest tactical scores in Earth's military history. I have been modeling the battle. The Council's strength is their numbers. That is also their weakness. 9,000 ships cannot all fire at once without hitting each other. They need formation. They need coordination. We do not. We can attack from any angle, any distance, any time. What about our losses? Young Jia asked. Severe, Bora admitted. We might lose 90% of our fleet. But if we fight smart, we can hurt them. Make them bleed. Make them afraid. Hyunwoo studied the hologram. What about Earth itself? If they reach orbit, can we hold? Sang-hoon smiled grimly. That is where it gets interesting. We have converted the moon's mass driver into a weapon. It was designed to launch mining equipment into space. Now it can launch tungsten rods at a significant fraction of light speed. Each rod has the explosive power of a nuclear weapon. We have 17,000 rods ready. And the orbital defenses? Hyunwoo asked. 300 defense platforms. 2,000 automated gun satellites. Nuclear minefields at every Lagrange point. If they want to reach Earth, they will have to go through hell first. There was silence in the room. Everyone knew what they were planning. This was not a battle plan. It was a funeral arrangement. Earth would fight, and Earth would probably die, but they would make sure the Council remembered the cost. Youngjia stood up. I need to address the public. They know the Council fleet is coming. They deserve to know what we are planning. Tell them the truth, Hyunwoo said. Tell them we will fight. Tell them we will not surrender. And tell them that if we fall, we will make sure the galaxy never forgets the name of Earth. Over the next 3 months, Earth transformed. Factories that once produced civilian goods now produced weapons. Ships that carried cargo now carried missiles. Civilians volunteered for military service in numbers that overwhelmed the recruitment centers. Humanity had always been divided by nation, religion, and ideology. Now they had only one identity that mattered. They were human. And they would not kneel. Captain Ji-won arrived from Jupiter with her fleet. She met with Admiral Hyunwoo in person, aboard his flagship, the EDS Indomitable. The ship was humanity's largest warship, 1 kilometer long and bristling with weapons. It was also 60 years old and had been scheduled for retirement before the war. Your orders, Captain? Hyunwoo asked as they stood on the bridge looking out at Earth through the window. I want the most dangerous assignment you have, Ji-won replied. My crew did not come all the way from Jupiter to hide behind Earth's defenses. Hyunwoo smiled. It was the first time he had smiled in months. I am assigning you to Wolfpack 7, 12 frigates. Your job is to operate in the asteroid belt, hit their supply lines, destroy their scouts, make them afraid to travel alone. Understood, sir. Captain, one more thing. This is probably a suicide mission. You know that, right? Ji-won met his eyes. Sir, we are all on a suicide mission. At least mine will be interesting. 2 weeks before the Council fleet was scheduled to arrive, Taemin returned from a diplomatic mission to the nearby Tarsus system. The Tarsus were a neutral species, traders who dealt with both the Council and independent worlds. Taemin had hoped to convince them to provide supplies or weapons. They had refused. No one wanted to anger the Council. Taemin reported to Hyunwoo in the command center. The Tarsus will not help us. No one will. We are alone. We have always been alone, Hyunwoo replied. Humanity has never relied on others to survive. We will not start now. On the final day before the invasion, Hyunwoo addressed the entire fleet. Every ship, every station, every soldier heard his words. In a few hours, the largest fleet in galactic history will arrive at the edge of our system. They come to conquer us. They come to make us slaves. They think we are weak. They think we will surrender. They are wrong. Humanity has faced extinction before. We have faced ice ages, plagues, and wars that nearly destroyed us. Every time we survived. Not because we were the strongest. Not because we were the smartest. But because we refused to give up. Today we face the greatest threat in our history. And today we will show the galaxy what humanity truly is. We are not prey. We are predators. And when they come for us, we will teach them why that matters. The fleet erupted in cheers. Across Earth, billions of people watched and listened. In bunkers and shelters, parents held their children. In orbit, soldiers checked their weapons one last time. On the moon, engineers loaded the last tungsten rods into the mass driver. And then, at the edge of the solar system, space itself seemed to tear open. Light bent and twisted. Reality shuddered. And 9,700 warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel into humanity's home system. The war had begun. The Council fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel like a swarm of metal locusts. 9,700 warships filled the darkness at the edge of Earth's solar system. They came in formation organized by species and function. Battleships the size of cities, carriers launching fighter craft, cruisers bristling with weapons that could vaporize mountains. It was beautiful and terrible. The full military might of 300 species gathered to crush one world. Admiral Vextar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Judgment. It was the largest ship in the fleet, a vessel 3 kilometers long that housed 50,000 crew members. Around him, officers from a dozen different species monitored their stations. The mood was confident. This would be an easy victory. Humanity would surrender within days, perhaps hours. "Open a channel to Earth," Vextar commanded. "Let us offer them one final chance to kneel." The communication officer, a being made of living crystal, activated the broadcast. Vextar's message was transmitted across all frequencies in every human language. "People of Earth, I am High Admiral Vextar of the Galaxy Council. You see our fleet. You know you cannot win. Surrender now and we will be merciful. Resist and we will turn your world into dust. You have 1 hour to respond." On Earth, in the command center beneath Geneva, Admiral Hyunwoo listened to the message with his senior staff. When it finished, he turned to his communication officer. No response. "Activate the Scorched Sky Protocol." The officer hesitated. "Sir, are you sure?" "Once we begin, there is no going back." "There was never any going back," Hyunwoo replied. "Execute the order." Across the solar system, thousands of automated systems came online. In the asteroid belt, hundreds of rocks that had seemed natural suddenly revealed themselves as weapons platforms. On the moons of Jupiter and Saturn, missile batteries that had been hidden beneath the surface emerged. In the depths of space between planets, stealth drones that had been waiting in silence for weeks activated their engines. The Council fleet detected the movement. Alarms sounded on every ship. Vextar leaned forward in his command chair. "What is that? What are they doing?" He got his answer 30 seconds later when the first wave hit. 5,000 missiles launched simultaneously from positions throughout the solar system. They were not large missiles. They were not particularly advanced, but there were so many of them and they moved so fast that the Council fleet's defensive systems could not track them all. The missiles slammed into the outer edges of the Council formation. Ships exploded, shields failed, hulls ruptured. In the first minute of combat, the Council lost 200 ships. "Return fire," Vextar roared. "Destroy those launch platforms." The Council fleet opened up with everything they had. Energy beams cut through space. Plasma torpedoes streaked toward the automated platforms, but the platforms were already moving, already firing their second wave, already disappearing back into the asteroid field. For every platform the Council destroyed, 2 more appeared from different locations. Captain Jiwon watched the battle from her frigate, the EDS Defiant, hidden deep in the asteroid belt. Around her, 11 other frigates waited in silence. They had watched the Council fleet arrive. They had watched the first missile wave strike. Now it was their turn. "All ships," she broadcast on the encrypted channel, "execute Wolfpack Alpha, target the carriers, hit them fast, hit them hard. Do not stop to fight. We are ghosts. We do not exist." The 12 frigates activated their engines and burst from the asteroid field at maximum acceleration. They were small ships, barely 100 meters long, but they were fast and maneuverable in ways the massive Council warships could never match. They dove into the Council formation like sharks into a school of fish. Jiwon's frigate fired every weapon it had at a massive carrier. Missiles, railgun rounds, and laser batteries all struck within seconds. The carrier's shields held, but just barely. Then the other 11 frigates hit it from different angles. The shields collapsed. The carrier's hull tore open. Thousands of fighter craft that had been preparing to launch spilled into space, many of them exploding as their fuel ignited. "Break off. Break off!" G1 commanded. The frigates scattered in 12 different directions, each one heading back toward the asteroid belt at maximum speed. The Council ships tried to pursue, but they were too slow. By the time they oriented their weapons, the human frigates had already disappeared into the chaos of spinning rocks and debris. Vextar watched 3 more carriers die in the next hour as the human frigates struck again and again from different positions. "How are they doing this?" he demanded. "Where are they hiding?" His tactical officer studied the displays. "Admiral, they are using the asteroid belt as cover. Our sensors cannot distinguish between their ships and the natural rocks. By the time we detect them, they have already fired and retreated." then destroy the entire asteroid belt. I want every rock in that field turned to dust. Admiral, that would take weeks. We do not have enough ammunition to. I do not care, do it. The Council fleet began pouring fire into the asteroid belt, destroying millions of tons of rock. But the belt was vast and the human ships were small and clever. They kept moving, kept hiding, kept striking. 3 weeks into the battle, the Council fleet had lost more than 7,000 ships. The humans had destroyed carriers, supply vessels, and troop transports with ruthless efficiency. They had avoided direct confrontations with battleships, instead targeting support craft and logistics. The Council fleet was still powerful, but it was wounded and confused. Hyunwoo studied the tactical display in the command center. Red icons marked destroyed Council ships. There were so many red icons that they covered half the screen. But the cost had been terrible. Earth had started with 340 ships. Now only 47 remained operational. Thousands of soldiers had died. Entire stations had been destroyed. Lieutenant Bora approached him. Admiral, the Council fleet is regrouping. They are preparing for a final push toward Earth. Our outer defenses cannot stop them. They will reach Earth orbit within 72 hours. Hyunwoo nodded slowly. Then we fall back to Earth. Every ship, every gun, every weapon we have left. We make our final stand at home. The order went out across the system. The surviving human ships began their retreat toward Earth. Captain Jiwon's wolf pack, now reduced to just 4 frigates, fought a running battle as they withdrew. They would strike, retreat, strike again, always moving toward Earth, always making the Council pay for every kilometer of space they claimed. Pilot Dae-hyun was exhausted. He had been flying combat missions for 3 weeks straight, sleeping in his cockpit between battles. His fighter was a small craft, barely large enough for one person, but it carried enough missiles to cripple a cruiser if he got close enough. He had gotten close enough 14 times. 14 Council ships bore his kill marks. Now he led a squadron of 30 fighters against a Council battleship that was advancing ahead of the main fleet. The battleship was huge, its armor thick enough to shrug off most weapons. But Dae-hyun had a plan. All fighters follow me in, he broadcast. We go straight down the throat. Target the main gun ports. If we can disable their primary weapons, the frigates can finish them. The 30 fighters dove toward the battleship in a tight formation. The battleship's defensive guns opened up, filling space with energy beams and explosive rounds. Fighters died. 10 were destroyed in the first few seconds. Then 5 more. Then another 3. But the survivors kept coming. Dae-hyun's fighter took a hit. His right engine exploded. Warning lights filled his cockpit. He had maybe 30 seconds before his ship tore itself apart. He armed every missile he had left and pointed his fighter directly at the battleship's main gun port. "This is for Earth," he said quietly, and pressed the trigger. His fighter slammed into the battleship along with all of his remaining missiles. The explosion tore through the gun port and into the ship's interior. Secondary explosions rippled along the battleship's hull. The surviving fighters followed up with their own attacks, pouring fire into the breach Dae-hyun had created. The battleship tried to retreat, but human frigates were already closing in. They fired everything they had. The battleship's reactor went critical. When it exploded, the blast wave destroyed 2 nearby Council cruisers. 14 human fighters had survived. Dae-hyun was not one of them. As the Council fleet approached Earth, Admiral Vextar looked at his tactical display with growing horror. He had started with 9,700 ships. Now he had less than 2,000. He had lost more vessels in 3 weeks than the Council had lost in the previous century of warfare. These humans, these primitive savages, had fought with a ferocity and cunning that defied belief, but he was still going to win. 2,000 ships was more than enough to crush Earth's remaining defenses. He would bombard their cities. He would turn their oceans to steam. He would make sure every species in the galaxy knew what happened to those who defied the Council. "All ships," he broadcast, "prepare for final assault. We end this today." The Council fleet accelerated toward Earth, toward the blue and white marble hanging in space, toward humanity's last stand. Earth hung in space like a jewel, blue oceans and white clouds swirling across its surface. From orbit it looked peaceful, beautiful. But the space around Earth was anything but peaceful. It was a battlefield unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The 2,000 surviving Council ships approached in a tight formation, shields overlapping, weapons charged. They had learned from their losses in the asteroid belt. No more spreading out, no more easy targets. They would punch through Earth's defenses with overwhelming force, reach orbit, and rain destruction on the planet below. Admiral Vextar stood on his damaged flagship, watching the blue world grow larger on his screens. All weapons free. Destroy anything that moves. Show them no mercy. The Council fleet crossed the orbit of the moon and hell opened up. The first wave came from the moon itself. Colonel Sang-hoon had spent 3 months converting the lunar mass driver into the largest gun humanity had ever built. Now it fired. Tungsten rods, each one 3 meters long and moving at a significant fraction of light speed, streaked toward the Council fleet. They were not guided. They did not need to be. The Council formation was so dense that missing was almost impossible. The rods struck like the fist of an angry god. Shields meant nothing at those velocities. Armor meant nothing. The rods punched through Council battleships as if they were made of paper. Each impact released energy equivalent to a nuclear weapon. Ships broke apart. Reactors exploded. The careful formation dissolved into chaos. "Destroy that weapon," Vextar screamed. "Kill it now!" The Council fleet turned its guns on the moon, but the mass driver was buried deep inside a crater, protected by meters of rock and shielding. It took them 10 minutes to silence it. In those 10 minutes, it had fired 17,000 rounds. Nearly 300 Council ships were gone. Captain Ji-won watched from her frigate as the lunar bombardment tore into the enemy. She had only 4 ships left in her wolf pack, but they were still dangerous. "All ships engage. Target their command vessels. If we can kill their leadership, maybe the rest will run." The 4 frigates dove into the Council formation from above, where the enemy had focused their attention on the moon. Ji-won's ship fired every weapon it had at a massive cruiser that bore the markings of a command ship. The cruiser's shields held, but the other 3 frigates added their fire. The shields collapsed. Missiles slammed into the cruiser's bridge. The ship began to spin wildly out of control, crashing into 2 other vessels before exploding. But the Council was learning. Their point defense systems locked onto Ji-won's frigates. Energy beams cut through space. 1 frigate died instantly, its reactor breached. Another lost power and began to drift. Ji-won's own ship took 3 direct hits. Alarms screamed. Hull breaches on 4 decks. Life support failing. "Weapons offline. All crew abandon ship," Ji-won ordered. "Get to the escape pods now." She stayed at her station as her crew evacuated, manually targeting the frigate's reactor. If she was going to die, she would take as many enemies with her as possible. She set the reactor to overload and aimed her crippled ship at the densest part of the Council formation. Then a hand grabbed her shoulder. Her first officer, a young man named Tai-ho, pulled her toward the escape pods. "Captain, you are coming with us." "That is an order." They made it to the escape pod with seconds to spare. As they ejected, Ji-won watched her ship plow into 3 Council cruisers. The reactor exploded and the 3 cruisers died with it. "Good ship," she whispered. The battle raged for 2 weeks. The Council fleet pushed closer to Earth, and Earth fought back with everything it had. Automated defense platforms emerged from hidden positions and fired until they were destroyed. Satellites packed with explosives rammed into Council ships. Nuclear mines detonated in carefully timed sequences, creating walls of radiation and shrapnel. On Earth's surface, Commander Jae-sung coordinated the ground-based defenses. He was a veteran of the Unity Wars, a man who had fought in the streets of Moscow during the final battle that unified Earth. Now he commanded 300 ground installations armed with particle beams and railguns. "Enemy ships are breaking through the orbital defenses," his tactical officer reported. 12 vessels heading for atmosphere. "They are targeting Seoul. All batteries in the Korean sector engage," Jae-sung ordered. "Bring them down." The ground-based weapons opened fire. Beams of pure energy lanced upward through the atmosphere, striking at ships that were trying to enter orbit. It was incredibly difficult to hit a moving target in space from the ground. But the human gunners had been training for months. 3 ships died in the first salvo. 2 more were damaged and forced to retreat. The remaining 7 made it through. They began their bombardment of Seoul. Energy weapons struck the city, vaporizing buildings. Millions of people died in the first few seconds, but Seoul's underground shelters had been built to withstand nuclear war. Most of the population was safe below ground, and the city's automated defenses fought back. Surface-to-space missiles streaked upward. 2 more ships died. The remaining 5 retreated to orbit, damaged and low on ammunition. But the city was burning. Jae-sung watched the tactical display and felt rage building in his chest. These aliens had come to his world, killed his people, destroyed his city. He opened a channel to all ground installations worldwide. All units weapons free. If they come into range, kill them. Make them pay for every meter of our sky. In orbit, the battle had become desperate. Admiral Hyunwoo's flagship, the Indomitable, was barely holding together. The ship had lost half its weapons and its shields were failing. Around him, the last ships of Earth's fleet fought with the fury of cornered animals. They rammed enemy vessels when they ran out of ammunition. They used tractor beams to drag enemy ships into each other. They broadcast false surrender signals and then detonated their reactors when the enemy came close. Sergeant Ho Jin led a boarding party from one of the few remaining human ships. They had used a damaged freighter as a decoy, let the council ships capture it, and then fought their way onto a council cruiser from the inside. Ho Jin's Marines were experts at zero-gravity combat, trained in the brutal close-quarters fighting that happened when ships boarded each other. They moved through the council cruiser's corridors, weapons ready. The aliens inside were not prepared for human aggression. Ho Jin's team used breaching charges, shotguns, and knives. They fought their way to the cruiser's engineering section and planted explosives on the reactor. Then they fought their way back to their captured freighter and jumped clear just before the cruiser exploded. "One more," Ho Jin said to his exhausted team. "We do it again. Who is with me?" Every Marine raised their hand. After 2 weeks of savage fighting in Earth's orbit, the Council fleet was down to 127 ships. They were damaged, demoralized, and running out of ammunition. They had lost more than 98% of their fleet. The ground was littered with debris and wreckage. Space itself seemed to be burning. Admiral Vextar sat in his command chair staring at the tactical display. He could not believe what he was seeing. This was supposed to be an easy conquest, a demonstration of Council power. Instead, it had become the worst military disaster in galactic history. His fleet was destroyed. His reputation was ruined. And these humans, these primitive savages, were still fighting. "Admiral, we must retreat," his tactical officer said. "If we stay, we will all die." Vextar knew he was right. But retreating meant admitting defeat. It meant telling the entire galaxy that the Council could not even conquer a single world. It meant the end of Council dominance. He made his decision. "All ships retreat. Jump to faster than light as soon as you are clear of the gravity well." The surviving Council ships began to disengage, trying to put distance between themselves and the human defenders. But the humans were not letting them go. Every human ship that could still move pursued them. They fired until their weapons ran dry. They rammed when they had no other choice. They made the Council pay for every light second of their retreat. Captain Ji-won, rescued from her escape pod by a human destroyer, took command of the damaged vessel and led the pursuit. "Keep firing. Do not let them escape. Make them remember this day." When the Council ships finally jumped to faster than light, only 18 vessels remained. 18 ships out of 9,700. The rest were debris, drifting in the darkness, a monument to the price of underestimating humanity. Admiral Hyunwoo stood on the bridge of his crippled flagship and watched them go. Around him, his crew was silent. They had won. Against all odds, against an enemy that should have crushed them in hours, they had won. But the victory was hollow. Earth's fleet was gone. 47 ships had survived the battle in the solar system. Only 12 were still operational after the defense of Earth. Millions of people had died. Cities were burning. It would take decades to rebuild, and yet, they were still free. They had not surrendered. They had not knelt. They were still human, and they would remain so. "Send a message to those 18 ships," Hyunwoo ordered. "Tell them to deliver it to the Council. Tell them that Earth remembers. And if they ever come back, none of them will return." 3 months after the battle, the 18 surviving Council ships limped back to Velm Prime. They were damaged, their hulls scarred with weapons fire, their crews haunted by what they had witnessed. When they dropped out of faster-than-light travel near the Council station, there was no celebration waiting for them. Only silence. Admiral Vextar was not among the survivors. His flagship had been destroyed in the final hours of the battle, torn apart by a human frigate that had rammed it at full speed. The captain of that frigate, a woman named Su Min, had broadcast a message before impact. "This is for Seoul." The explosion had been visible from Earth's surface. High Chancellor Vextar, The politician who had ordered the invasion stood in the council chamber as reports came in from the returning ships. His forearms trembled as he read the casualty lists. 9,682 ships destroyed. Nearly 10 million crew members dead. The largest military disaster in council history, and all of it happened trying to conquer one small world. The chamber was filled with counselors, but no one was speaking. They had all voted for the invasion. They had all agreed that humanity needed to be taught a lesson. Now they were learning a lesson of their own. The doors of the chamber opened and Ambassador Taemin walked in. He had returned to council space not to negotiate but to deliver a message. He walked to the center of the chamber, the same place he had stood 3 months ago when he delivered Earth's refusal. This time his presence felt different. This time the counselors looked at him with fear. Taemin activated a holographic projector. Images filled the air above him. Battle footage from the war. Council ships exploding. Human frigates striking from the shadows. The lunar mass driver firing. Cities burning on Earth. The desperate last stand in orbit. And finally, the 18 ships fleeing for their lives as human vessels pursued them to the edge of the system. Members of the council. Taemin began, his voice calm and steady. You sent 9,700 ships to conquer Earth. 18 returned. This was not a battle. This was a lesson. You thought we were weak because we are young. You thought we would surrender because we are small. You were wrong. He gestured to the images. Every species in this chamber has forgotten what it means to fight for survival. You have lived in peace for so long that you forgot war has a cost. You send fleets to conquer worlds and expect easy victories. You have forgotten that some species will burn the galaxy before they kneel. High Chancellor Vextar tried to speak. Ambassador, we understand that. You understand nothing, Taemin interrupted. You thought you were teaching us a lesson. Instead, we taught you one. Humanity does not surrender. We do not bow. And we never ever forgive unprovoked aggression. He pressed a button on his projector. A new image appeared, this time a message from Admiral Hyunwoo himself. The Admiral looked tired, his uniform torn and stained with blood, but his eyes were hard as steel. People of the Galaxy Council, the recording began. I am Admiral Hyunwoo of the United Earth Defense Force. You came to our system with the largest fleet ever assembled. You came to make us your slaves. You failed. Your ships are debris. Your soldiers are dead. And your reputation is destroyed. Earth is not your subordinate. We are your equal. Remember this day. Remember what happened when you tried to take our freedom. And know this. If you ever threaten us again, we will not stop at our borders. We will bring this war to your worlds. We will make you understand what humanity truly is. We are not a species that fights to win. We are a species that fights to survive, and we will do anything, sacrifice anything, to remain free. The recording ended. The chamber was silent. Taemin looked around at the counselors, at the 300 species who had thought themselves superior to humanity. Earth will not join your council as a subordinate member, but we are willing to negotiate as equals. We are willing to trade, to cooperate, to build a future together, but only as equals, never as servants. He turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and one more thing. We kept records of every ship we destroyed, every crew member who died, 9,682 vessels. We are building a monument on Earth that will bear all of their names, so that humanity never forgets the price of freedom, and so the galaxy never forgets the price of trying to take it from us. Taemin walked out of the chamber. No one tried to stop him. No one even spoke. They simply watched him leave. This ambassador from a world that had just humiliated the greatest military power in the galaxy. On Earth, reconstruction had begun. Cities were being rebuilt. Orbital defenses were being restored. And something new was happening. Shipyards were working day and night building a new fleet. Not 300 ships, not even 1,000. Earth was building 10,000 warships, each one incorporating lessons learned from the battle. They would never be caught unprepared again. Captain Ji-won had been promoted to admiral. She now commanded Earth's new fast attack fleet, a force of 2,000 frigates designed for the hit-and-run tactics that had proven so effective. She stood in the shipyard watching the new vessels take shape, and thought about her crew who had died in the war. They would be remembered. Their sacrifice would mean something. Admiral Hyunwoo had retired from active command, but he remained as an advisor to Earth's military. He spent his days training the next generation of officers, teaching them the lessons he had learned. Never underestimate your enemy, he told them. Never assume victory, and never ever give up. Those 3 rules saved Earth. Remember them. Lieutenant Bora, the young tactical genius, had been promoted to colonel, and now ran Earth's new strategic planning division. She was already developing plans for future conflicts. Earth would not wait to be attacked again. They would build alliances with other independent worlds. They would establish forward bases. They would make sure that if war came again, it would be fought far from Earth's orbit. Defense Minister Youngja addressed the people of Earth in a broadcast that was heard by billions. She stood before the new monument, a massive wall of black stone that bore 9,682 marks, 1 for each council ship destroyed. We paid a terrible price for our freedom, she said. Millions of our people died. Our cities burned. Our fleets were destroyed. But we survived. We remained free, and we showed the galaxy that humanity will not be conquered. This monument stands as a reminder, not just to us, but to anyone who might think about threatening Earth again. We are not a warlike species. We do not seek conflict, but we will never surrender. We will never kneel, and if we must fight, we will fight with everything we have. The monument became a place of pilgrimage. People came from all over Earth to see it, to touch it, to remember. Parents brought their children and told them stories of the war. Veterans stood before it and wept for friends who would never come home. And visitors from other worlds came to see it and understand what humanity was capable of. The Council never sent another fleet to Earth. They had learned their lesson. Some Council members argued for a second invasion, claiming that Earth needed to be punished for its defiance. But no one was willing to commit the ships. No one wanted to be responsible for another disaster. Instead, the Council sent ambassadors to negotiate. Earth agreed to establish trade relations, to share technology, to participate in galactic affairs, but always as an equal, never as a subordinate. The Council had no choice but to accept. Other species began to take notice. Young civilizations that had been forced to join the Council as subordinates started asking questions. If humanity could resist, why couldn't they? The Council's grip on the galaxy began to weaken. Some species declared independence. Others demanded renegotiation of their treaties. The balance of power was shifting. 5 years after the battle, Earth launched its first colony ship to another star system. It was protected by an escort of 50 warships. The message was clear. Humanity was expanding and they would not be stopped. 10 years after the battle, Earth had become one of the major powers in the galaxy. Their military was respected and feared. Their economy was booming. Their culture was spreading to other worlds. Children across the galaxy learned about the battle in school, about how one world had stood against an empire and won. Admiral Jiwan, now in command of Earth's entire fleet, stood on the bridge of the EDS Defiant II, named after her first command. She looked out at the stars and thought about how far humanity had come. From a single world fighting for survival to a galactic power respected by all. Admiral, her communication officer, said, "We are receiving a distress call from the Tarsus system. They are under attack by pirates. They are requesting assistance." Jiwan smiled. The Tarsus were the ones who had refused to help Earth during the invasion. They had been too afraid of the Council. Now they were calling Earth for help. "Set course for the Tarsus system," she ordered. "Maximum speed. Let us show them what Earth does for its friends." As the fleet jumped to faster than light, Jiwan thought about Admiral Hyunwoo's words from so long ago. They had survived. They had remained free, and now they were strong enough to help others do the same. Earth had started as prey, hunted by a galactic empire, but they had become something else, something the galaxy had never seen before. They had become a species that would fight to the end for freedom. Not just their own freedom, but the freedom of anyone who asked for help. The monument on Earth bore 9,682 marks. Each one represented a lesson the Council had learned the hard way. Earth remembers. Earth does not surrender, and Earth will never be conquered. That was the message humanity sent to the galaxy, and the galaxy would never forget it.